And we're back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the long-awaited Act 2 of the Herobrine Experience. Hopefully I didn't keep y'all waiting for too long. Also, happy Halloween, as this is the day I want the video to release. So, if you haven't watched Act 1 and you're watching this for some reason, please roll back, go to Act 1, come back here, because, well, I'm not going to go over anything that I went over at the start of that video, because, well, it's already there in the first video. So do yourself a favor, if you haven't watched Act 1, just go ahead and watch it. It's a great video, everybody loves it. So let's get on to the start of Act 2, Session 4.
How close are you there?
So, something you'll notice right at the start of Session 4 is that the render distance is significantly lowered compared to Act 1, and that's on purpose. The reason why it's on purpose is because in the old console edition, if I'm not mistaken, you only had around 12 render distance to work with on the Xbox 360 edition. So I decided that if I'm trying to emulate it, I might as well go full out. Also, Herobrine comes from the fog, as in the name, so you might as well have the fog at least present in the world. I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do for the first, act for this act, but I was walking to the Herobrine Shrine, and that got me thinking, I have an unfinished Herobrine Shrine, might as well try to finish it. So I go down into the sinkhole, and I get all the gold, and it was surprisingly pretty quiet down there in the caves, as Herobrine didn't even show up once, and that was unusual for him. He loves to, try to get me in the caves. But I brushed it off, and I continued to get gold until I had just enough to make the Herobrine Shrine. So once I had enough for the shrine, I decided to head back to my house, and I began to smelt the gold. And while I was waiting, I bred my animals once more. Then I went back inside my house to get the gold. Don't you love how when you go outside and you think you saw something, when you go outside there's just absolutely nothing? Yeah, I love that feeling too. Anyways, after all of that, I finally got the gold, and I finally put this bad boy together. I then had to go to the bottom of the ocean to get a piece of flint, and I waited until it became night to finally light this bad boy up. Once night fell, I finally knew it was time to activate the shrine. Yeah, that was not really smart of me, considering he's the very guy that's been tormenting me, and I just built him a shrine that probably makes him a little bit more powerful. Yeah, not too smart of me, but anyways, let's continue. Yeah, after just giving the guy that's been tormenting me probably unlimited power, I decided to just, go to bed. So, next on the list is I want to get the blaze rods to go to the end, and hopefully we're gonna do it. So, the thing about the nether is we have fog on. Now, here's a comparison of how the nether looked in Act 1 versus how it looks in Act 2. Now, I don't know if you and I are seeing the same thing, but I can't see shit, so that's kind of an issue. But we're gonna press on, and if I recall correctly, there was a nether fortress towards over here, so let's begin to bridge over there. Now, I did die in lava last time in Act 1, so I made sure that I was crouching and I did not die. But thankfully I make it to the other side, and I do in fact see the fortress. This fortress was bombarded by blazes and withered skeletons, and I only had 4 pieces of mutton to my name and almost a broken shield. So I tried to get what I could salvage. While trying to find the blaze spawner, a skeleton jumps me and gets me to critical condition, but I do somehow clutch up and I don't die, thank the Lord. And I do end up running out because I just lack the resources right now. And that's the end of session 4. So, going into session 5, I knew that this was probably my second to last session of the series. So, I decided to make it kind of like a little marathon to get some resources. So, I got a few more pieces of wheat and I bred the cows and sheep. And then I tried to run around and get a few more pieces of leather by killing some cows and some horses. And, it worked in my favor. And then while doing that, I also realized that something very magical about this mod, and I'll let you see for yourself. Oh, it'd be crazy if you could bone meal sugarcane. What the fuck?
What?
Apparently, one thing that Bedrock has going that the original Legacy console editions had was that you can bone meal sugarcane on both of those versions, unlike Java Edition. And for some reason, that must have slipped my mind while I was playing. Because, oh baby, did I go to town bone milling sugarcane. And that's one of my biggest icks about Java Edition, really, is, you have to sit and wait for sugarcane, and it's a slow process. But that did allow me to get the necessary requirements to get my enchantment table going with full enchants. And oh baby, that saved me so much time. Oh, you don't even realize. So I go down into the sinkhole to try to get some more levels to maybe get to level 30 so I can just get a slightly better pickaxe. I press on after that, and I just get shy of 28 levels because I kind of gave up, and I decided to go home, and on my way up, I got a little sense of deja vu. So anyways, I got back to the house, and just before I used my levels, I decided to test my shield. Probably not the smartest idea, even though I definitely had my shield up, but I pressed on, and I got my 7 levels back in return. Thank you game. Luckily for my rampage with the cows to get my leather, I actually had a decent amount of food to go to the nether and not die of starvation while fighting the blazes. So I decided to go back there, and I don't know if you've noticed, but the piglins the pigmen look kind of weird. The texture pack kind of has half their head missing. Yeah, we're just gonna have to deal with it. I get to the blazes and I kill them, and luckily, as far as I'm aware, in this entire playthrough, Herobrine has not shown up once in the nether. And that's a good thing, really. I mean, he doesn't belong there. So then my next objective was, of course, to get the ender pearl. So I decided to go yet again back down into the sinkhole and maybe find a haunting of endermen. And well, actually I do, and I use the boat method. And in case you don't know what the boat method is, next time you play a Minecraft playthrough and you have to suffer through killing the endermen, just remember you can place them in a single boat and they can be completely harmless. Lesson learned today. Can we also talk about just the eeriness that the fog does to a cave? I mean, it really amplifies the ambience in the cave by tenfold. After killing a few more endermen, I decided to head back up to my house to craft the Eyes of Ender, which will lead me to the end of the playthrough, but we're not going quite yet. So I try to go back down into the sinkhole to try to get just a few bit more Eyes of Ender, but to no avail. There was no enderman in sight. So I decide to finally go back to the base, and of course, I get interrupted on the way. And with that, we are done with session 5. And here we are, the final session of the Herobrine experience. Now, going into this, I knew that I had to beat the Ender Dragon this session, but I still had some iron armor, so I decided to try to get some more diamonds. Now, something inside my head at this moment told me that maybe if he doesn't know that I'm looking at him, I can get him. But that appears to not be that true. And long story short, I go through a rabbit hole of a cave system wrapping around. It was really cool, and it was like a labyrinth with no exit. And the best part about this entire experience is that Herobrine didn't show up once. And that is scary. Just being in a cave knowing that Herobrine is in your world and he doesn't even bother to show up. That is terrifying. If you know that there's something out there in the world and you can't see it, you don't know what it's up to. You don't know what it can do. You don't know what it's planning. That is an excellent way that the mod uses fear, and I think it's genius. I remember when I was a little kid, and I, of course, played Xbox 360 with my brother, and he used to tell me that these squared off rooms that don't look natural in the slightest were made by Herobrine in the mine shafts, and I believed him, knowing that, he's older than me, he surely knows what he's talking about. And, it's just very ironic seeing this in modern day and not seeing him, knowing he's in my world. It's, it kind of just all loops back at one point, and I think it's really neat. But of course, after all of that, I got enough diamonds, and I decided to finally head back to my house. And what do you know? My house is literally in flames. Now, it wasn't too bad of a loss because I only lost about a wall, but I decided that if I'm on my last session, I might as well make sure that this house can stand up for the rest of time. So I decided to go back into the sinkhole. I promise, for the final time, you're going to hear me say this. So I decided to completely rebuild my house out of deep slate so that Herobrine cannot burn it. God. And of course, I built this out of deep slate not because it looks cool, but because deep slate wasn't around when Herobrine was like a urban legend, so maybe that'll run him off. And even though I don't really have that much Eyes of Ender, I feel like I've kind of completed this place. It's come full circle. It can't really get destroyed by Herobrine anymore. I think it's time to leave. This one felt different. He knew what was going to happen. He knew that I was going to leave. He knew that I was probably never going to come back to this place. And he just looked at me as if he knew that the ride was almost over. And, a blink and a miss, and he's gone again. And I started my descent towards the end portal. And on my way there, I was thinking, what was the end goal of this Herobrine experience? Was it just trying to challenge myself and play Minecraft in an old but new way? Or was it to kind of close a chapter in my life that has been kind of plaguing me since I was a little kid? It was honestly, well, I came to a conclusion that it was a little bit of both. I had always been afraid of Herobrine as a kid. One time, my brother pranked me into thinking that Herobrine got onto our world, and that scared the ever living crap out of me. But playing this has kind of helped that little child in my soul to kind of get over that and accept that sometimes you just gotta face your fears head on. And that is exactly what I learned. And while going through to the end portal, it was really quiet going down there. There was no Herobrine. It wasn't scary. It wasn't relaxing. It was kind of just me coming to terms with something that I haven't been able to in my life. But that chapter of my life hasn't ended just yet. As I finally found the stronghold, and it was different this time. It was wrecked with moss and cobwebs, and it was kind of like digging up an old wound that didn't necessarily need to be opened, but I felt like I needed to. and after a while of searching, I finally found the end portal. Now, I was still missing a few Eyes of Ender, so I decided to go to a nearby cave, and luckily I actually had quite a lot of Endermen spawn down there, luckily, and I finally had enough to open up the end portal. I began to fight the Ender Dragon, but I knew this wasn't the final fight of the series. This was merely a step to the final battle. Throughout the battle, I got glimpses of him, and he just watched silently as I defeated the Ender Dragon. And after a while, I did kill the Ender Dragon. Ugh, you. I remember years ago I was terrified of you. I mean, look at you. Playing this whole experience with you has taught me something that I think I needed to learn a while ago. You've haunted me for my entire life, basically, and only now have I realized that all you are is just a work of fiction. There is no killing you, there is no beating you, there's simply just forgetting you. And that's exactly what I'm gonna do here, O'Brien. I'm gonna forget you. You're just a memory in the back of my mind, and no matter how many times you try to haunt me, all you are is just a fading memory.